When I picked up Ryan Thompson, he was drunk and in the arms of his new girlfriend. His friend teased, Ryan is still the tactful one, pretending to have amnesia and flying the colorful flag out in the open. The two of them turned their heads and saw me appearing at an unknown time. In the midst of their panic, I calmly helped Ryan Thompson back home. Ryan Thompson thought I didn't hear him and breathed a sigh of relief. When I woke up the next day, there was no trace of me in the house. Only on the table lay the signed divorce papers. I heard that on this day, Ryan Thompson almost turned New York upside down looking for me. I had just gotten out of the hospital when I got the call from Ryan Thompson. Sister-in-law, Ryan is drunk, come pick him up. The voice on the other end of the phone was very noisy. Ryan Thompson's friend hung up the phone directly after dropping this sentence. The hospital was close to the bar they were at, a 5-minute walk away. When I got to the door, it was open. Ryan Thompson was sitting in the center, slumped over in the arms of the woman next to him. The woman looked raw, maybe Ryan Thompson's new girlfriend. A young man, who was holding a woman on the right and left, approached him. Ryan is still very skillful, pretending to have lost his memory, and fluttering the colorful flags in the open air. Ryan Thompson lifted his eyes. What? Are you envious? Then you should marry one too. The man waved his hand. I don't want to go to the grave of marriage so early. Besides, I don't have Ryan's training skills. Ryan Thompson muffled his drink and didn't answer. The man, however, didn't spoil the fun at all and talked to himself. But the Luna Smith of today is just too well trained to look as powerful as she did back then. Back then, that cold little face, those eyes, TSK. Seeing that the more he said, the more he went overboard, Ryan Thompson still had no intention of stopping it. Bang! The wine glass fell heavily on the table, interrupting his words. Zachary Davis, who had been sitting and drinking all night, suddenly spoke out. What are you talking about? You've had too much to drink, and your sister-in-law dares to flirt with you. The man paused, as if reacting, slapped his mouth, and was about to apologize. But he heard Ryan Thompson responded lightly, you're right. She really doesn't have the same feeling as before. You. The rest of the crowd was up in arms, and the teasing intensified. Zachary Davis couldn't take it anymore and got up violently and headed out the door. What's Zach doing? You're drunk already? The wine is gone, I go to open. Zachary Davis words in the middle of the sentence, violent break. Sister-in-law? As his voice fell, the entire private room suddenly fell silent. Everyone looked at the door in unison. Ryan Thompson subconsciously straightened up and stood up in a panic. Luna, when did you arrive? My name is Luna Smith. I met Ryan Thompson when I was at my lowest point. My family owed money that year, and I was told to drop out of school and go to work early to pay off the debt. My mom said it was a waste for a girl to study too much. They should take advantage of their good looks and eat the bowl of youth. I didn't agree, and ran away that night with my ID card and acceptance letter. But the moment I came out from the train station, the bustle of the big city made me timid. I looked at myself with a short sleeve, not long enough to expose the ankle pants. It was as if vines had grown in place, binding me firmly in place. I began to budge. Suddenly, I was slammed into. A tall man cursed as he passed me. No eyes, standing in the middle of the road. I panicked and prepared to apologize. Just then, the man's hand behind his back was squeezed hard and he cried out in pain. There was a snap. A cell phone fell to the ground. The yellowed phone case was very similar to mine. It was then that I reacted, my cell phone was gone. The man saw that he was poked and prodded, he was instantly abashed and ran away. The kind man picked up my cell phone and handed it to me. He stood tall, with broad shoulders and long legs. There wasn't a wrinkle in his clothes, and he was exquisite from head to toe. He stood out of place with me, as if he existed in two worlds. Put it away and pay attention. Even the voice was nice. I took the phone and tried to say a word of thanks. But after holding my tongue, I only spit out a good one. I couldn't even pull off a smile. It wasn't until I met him again at the beginning of the school year that I realized the kind man's name was Ryan Thompson. At that time, he had a conflict with his family and ran away from home and got his card cut off. It was his first time to take the high-speed train. When he entered the station, the crowded and noisy scene scared him back. But for me, it was like God couldn't stand it anymore and sent Ryan Thompson. He gave me a hand in the mire, and I kept struggling. Then we fell in love and got married, and everything that happened seemed like a dream in retrospect. It was as if my life had come to an end, and everything ahead of me was so beautiful. Enchanted me. Until 6 years later, a car accident. Will I completely wake up? Ryan Thompson was awake when I arrived at the hospital. He wasn't badly hurt, except for his head, which had bandage after bandage wrapped around it. When he saw me, his nice eyebrows furrowed in some confusion. You are? It was like I had suddenly fallen into an icy river, frozen in place. The two men stared at each other wordlessly, finally broken by Zachary Davis, who had arrived. He said, "Sister-in-law, Ryan has memory loss. The doctor says it's selective memory loss, remembers everyone, but just not you." It was a long time before I heard myself respond. I replied, "I'm glad he's okay." Zachary Davis handily reassured me. Said Ryan Thompson would remember, maybe it was just a matter of time. At first I thought so too. I held back all my emotions as I watched Ryan Thompson outwardly say he was single. I watched him flirt with one woman after another. And all of my questioning turned into self-congratulation in the end. I reassured myself that he had lost his memory. He doesn't remember me, he doesn't remember our past, so it's normal for him to fall in love with someone else. But one day, he'll remember me. Remember our past and come back to this family. Available at. I brainwashed myself over and over again, not waiting for Ryan Thompson to regain his memory. Instead, waited for the truth of it all. The moment I heard the pretense of memory loss, my heart surged with a fine stabbing pain. My fingertips slowly pinched into my palms, forcing down the choke in my throat. Oh, it turns out, somehow, since when? I've been eating the rice of youth, just like my mom said. And now, the rice of youth can't be eaten. They said for a long time without realizing that I was coming. Long enough for my hands and feet to begin to numb. Long enough that I could no longer laugh. But when they saw me, when Ryan Thompson panicked and tried to see if I hurt him, it was as if a huge mountain that had been weighing me down suddenly disappeared. I put on my standard smile again. I just arrived. The tension suddenly dissipated as Ryan Thompson subconsciously blocked the woman. I just drank too much and didn't sit still. I faintly responded, "Let's go." Ryan Thompson took 2 steps forward, suddenly stumbled twice on his feet, and violently wrapped his arms around me. The pungent smell of alcohol mixed with strong perfume. I didn't hold back and dry heaved a few times. Luckily, Ryan Thompson was not too drunk to cause me any trouble, and he traveled safely all the way home. I put him in the bath as usual and made him some sober tea. After he lay down, I gently massaged him to relieve his alcohol intake. Ryan Thompson didn't sense anything unusual about me and gradually relaxed. I calmly gathered my clothes after he fell asleep and put away all the things that belonged to me personally. After all that, I pulled out the divorce papers that I had prepared long ago. Signed it and placed it in the most prominent place in the house. Luna Smith. Redundant once again. After leaving New York, I went to a small fish town. Just outside the station, there was a group of locals soliciting customers. There are no hotels in this town, and families run bed and breakfasts. When I was hesitating, a little girl hugged my leg. "Sister, come and stay at Little Fisherman's house?" I was stunned, then realized that it should be a homophone. After checking in, I realized that the owner of the BB had given birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix children. The boy's name was calculated by a master and is called Jiang Zhanfeng. The girl's name is Fiona Green because she has been a fisherman for generations. Because of the similarity of their names, I have a natural affinity for Fiona Green. She also likes to listen to my stories about the big city. I picked out some inspirational moments and told them to her. She applauded with gusto. "Wow, so I can be as awesome as my sister when I grow up." I was stunned, as if something had occurred to me. "No, sis isn't awesome, sis is a fool who only eats her youth." Fiona Green tilted her head as if she didn't understand. "Sister is not a fool." The quiet and beautiful days didn't last too long when an unexpected guest came to the BB. Zachary Davis. He leaned against the car, his side profile sharp and handsome. It took me a moment to realize that this brother, who had been calling Ryan Thompson Ryan, didn't seem to be a slouch at all. A cigarette butt landed on his heels, and when he heard the commotion, he looked back at me. Sister-in-law, I finally found you, Ryan, I raised my hand to interrupt him, I'm not your sister-in-law. Zachary Davis immediately changed his words, Luna, Ryan he really lost his memory at that time, he didn't say anything later because he wanted to surprise you. Zachary Davis's voice was getting lower and lower, probably because he didn't even believe in this reason. He changed the subject, Ryan woke up and realized you were gone, and almost didn't turn New York upside down trying to find you. I frowned. He was talking a little too much, and I was starting to get a little impatient. So? What the hell are you trying to say? Begging for Ryan Thompson to get back together? Zachary Davis was silent for a moment before speaking. Ryan hasn't slept since you left. He's got insomnia. He takes 2 sleeping pills every time he can't take it anymore. Until last week, when he swallowed too many and went into the hospital. Zachary Davis paused before continuing. When he woke up in the hospital after having his stomach pumped, Ryan had amnesia. This time he forgot everyone but you. Only. I let out a trance-like laugh. What I once dreamed of getting, I got when I didn't want it. The word appeared now, like a moldy candy. Sickening. Zachary Davis stares at me deadpan, like he's trying to find some emotion in my face. I incline my head expressionlessly and wave to Fiona Green. Fisherman, have you ever heard the story of the wolf? Fiona Green didn't understand what we were talking about, and when she saw me suddenly ask her, her relaxed little face suddenly wrinkled. I've heard of it. It's about a boy herding sheep. The wolf didn't come, but he shouted that the wolf was coming. Then the real wolf came, and the villagers didn't believe him. Fiona Green's answer embarrassed Zachary Davis a little. I touched Fiona Green's head and led her back. Zachary Davis still stopped me to explain. Luna, I really didn't lie to you. I have the doctor's report, the authoritative expert from the public hospital. It can't be faked. I'm not asking you to get back together. I just want you to go back and see Ryan. His condition is deteriorating day by day. I'm really afraid of him. Zachary Davis didn't say the rest. If Ryan Thompson really has lost his memory, then the only person he remembers is his lover, and that's all he has to go on. But I don't want such a heavy identity. There's no one who can't leave anyone. I spoke in a thin tone, we've already divorced, not to mention his memory loss, even if he dies, it's not my turn to collect his body. With these words, I was prepared to be blamed by Zachary Davis. What I didn't expect was for him to just walk away. After he left, my life was briefly quiet. Only occasionally would Ryan Thompson's name pop into my head. We were together for 7 years, I knew his likes and dislikes, his habits. Those bits and pieces of the past won't be instantly erased from my mind, but will be completely forgotten after each memory. It's like taking out the trash, finding it, and throwing it away. Only, Ryan Thompson still sought it out. He came up with a picture of me and Zachary Davis and angrily questioned. Who is this? His words were like a fuse that ignited my anger. What's it to you, Ryan Thompson? You're just my ex-husband and have no business in my business. Ryan Thompson pursed his lips as his eyes began to redden. He's the reason you're divorcing me? I am not going to let you guys get away with this. You're not divorcing me for the rest of your life until I sign the papers. I was shaking with anger. Is that how you speculate about me? Is that how you see me in the few memories you have? For the first time in 7 years, I felt unfamiliar with this man. He had become that faceless. You might as well not remember anything. Ryan Thompson panicked a little at those words. No, that's not what I meant. I care about you. Right, let's go back. You go back with me, we'll be good. I don't want anything, okay? Said, he clutched my wrist and pulled me out. I struggled desperately, let go. Ryan Thompson didn't seem to hear anything and was determined to take me away. My yelling finally alerted the others in the BB. Fiona Green rushed out, let go of my sister, I'll call the police. This call to the police made all the other people on the street look over. Everyone gathered around, what are you doing to the little girl? Ryan Thompson wrinkled his eyebrows, we are husband and wife, I will take her back. I immediately retorted, no, I don't know him. The others were a bit hesitant, not knowing who to believe. A strong man thought about it and snapped, even if you are a couple, you still let go. If anything happens, just calm down and communicate on your cell phone. His words were supported by everyone. Ryan Thompson had to let go first. After that, I didn't see Ryan Thompson again for a long time. I guess he went back to find out the truth. It's ridiculous, who is a cheater to question others? I woke up this morning with a sudden urge to eat my own cooking. The morning market in Little Fish Town was very crowded. I was a little uncomfortable, but the fresh fireworks took away my days of dreariness. After paying, I turned around and walked towards the vegetable section in front of me. Suddenly, a force yanked me back. It was Ryan Thompson, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. He clasped my arm with his right hand and bent his left to shield me. Do you know how to push a car? Just run right into people? I realized then that if Ryan Thompson hadn't pulled me, this aquatic cart with slippery wheels that couldn't walk in a straight line would have collided with me. The cart boy was a bit unconvinced. The road is so wide, why do you say that I hit people? She will not dodge a bit, who to blame? Ryan Thompson, cold voice, you push the car will not be loud warning? The road is so slippery, how can you let the pregnant woman avoid? Pregnant women. I was stunned, and looked down at Ryan Thompson's hand in front of me. The little brother then reluctantly apologized and the cart flew away. Ryan Thompson turned back to me, his tone anxious. How's it going? Is there anything wrong? Did you hit? You got it. I interrupted him. Ryan Thompson answered lowly, I know you and Zachary Davis have nothing to do with each other. This is my child, right? I've spent the last 2 days with an aunt to learn how to take care of pregnant women and fetal education related. I'll learn to be a good father. It was only when he said this that Ryan Thompson's pale face took on some of its glow. I let him finish all of this, letting him build beautiful fantasies in his head. Then, gently spoke to shatter his beautiful dream. Knocked off. I smiled a wry, nasty smile. I aborted the baby that wasn't supposed to come. I expected Ryan Thompson to be disappointed, angry, and turn away. He did neither. He was stunned for a split second, hiding the bleakness in his eyes. It's okay. We're still young, we still have a chance. I subconsciously touched the small of my back. There is no chance. When I learned that I want to abort the child, the doctor was a little puzzled. Ms. Shen, do you really want to abort this child? Your health is not good, and you have been examined for the past few years, but you have not been able to get pregnant. Now it's so hard to get pregnant, why don't you want it again? I didn't say anything. The doctor was used to seeing this kind of scene and reacted quickly. She sighed, what you need to be clear about is that after you get rid of this child, maybe you won't have another child of your own in this lifetime. After all, the child is connected to your blood, Ms. Shen, you should reconsider. That day, I sat in the hospital corridor for a long time. Would Ryan Thompson be expecting this child? Probably before. And now? I sneered, and now, this child would be the burden that tied him down. Fate just seemed to like to play tricks on people, always letting me have what I wanted most at the most inopportune time. I re-entered the consulting room. Doctor, I've thought about it, abort it. I don't want to think only about myself, the baby deserves better. I'm sorry, baby. I hope you repick a happy, family-friendly couple. I didn't inform Ryan Thompson of this. He didn't need to be informed before and he didn't need to be after. With that in mind, I coldly told him, Ryan Thompson, we are divorced. Even if I would have another child, it wouldn't be yours. Drawing a straight line is the most hurtful thing you can do. Ryan Thompson's throat rolled, there is no divorce, I didn't sign it, I tore up that divorce decree. I snorted, poking at his self-delusion. Even if you don't sign it, the court can still grant a divorce when the deadline comes. A flicker of pain crossed Ryan Thompson's eyes. As expected, I saw regret and remorse on his face. But this moment was not as happy as I thought it would be. Maybe his emotions didn't matter to me anymore. I no longer pay attention to his expression like I used to. Well, no longer, because he frowned inadvertently, worried about speculation. So, even if his expression at this moment is very painful, it has nothing to do with me. Not wanting to tangle with him any further, I turned sharply and left. When I walked out a ways and looked back, Ryan Thompson was still standing in the same spot. He wasn't following me anymore. I lost interest in cooking after being so upset by him. I went back, swallowed 2 pills, and fell back to sleep. This sleep went straight through the night, and when I came downstairs in the evening, I saw Ryan Thompson again. He was at the front desk, checking in. This time Ryan Thompson was not quite the same as in the morning. He had changed into a black shirt with the collar unbuttoned 3 times, vaguely revealing his pale skin. The shirt looked familiar, it was my favorite one. When he saw me appear, Ryan Thompson immediately approached me. As he approached, the familiar scent of pine caused me to drift off for a moment. It was as if we were still the same as before and nothing had happened. Ryan Thompson grabbed my arm with a pleading tone in his voice. After the divorce, let's forget everything before and start over, okay? A sentence that brought me back to reality. Ryan Thompson, let go. I tried to break free, but his grip was so tight it almost crushed my bones. Angry, I said something harder. There's no going back. I already know it's shit, am I going to eat it again? Ryan Thompson unloaded. His face became very ugly. I watched coldly as Ryan Thompson swayed, on the verge of collapse. His face was pale and a stiff smile pulled hard from the corners of his mouth. Luna, I'm not giving up. Ryan Thompson probably guessed I'd leave overnight. He stubbornly stood in front of the BB. The owner of the BB had no choice but to approach me and ask me to persuade him. I thought about it and sent a message to Zachary Davis. Zachary Davis wasn't back yet, and he said he'd be right there. I went downstairs and went to Ryan Thompson. Before he could say anything, Ryan Thompson hastily explained. I just couldn't sleep and stood to get some air, I won't disturb you. I let out a long sigh. I have a new boyfriend, please leave me alone. No way. Ryan Thompson's face instantly turned pale and his lips trembled as he struggled to take in my words. Just then, the door to the BB opened. Zachary Davis walked in quickly. He came quickly, as if he'd casually thrown on a trench coat to go out the door, even with 2 strands of his hair sticking up. I greeted Zachary Davis and took his hand without waiting for him to say anything. Darling, you're finally here. Zachary Davis's eyes widened in disbelief. His pale face was tinged with scarlet. I stood on my tiptoes, hooked down his neck, and reached up to fix his hair. Then naturally, I planted a kiss on the corner of his mouth and leaned into his arms. Not caring what Zachary Davis's expression was, I just looked over at Ryan Thompson. You were right earlier. I'm with your good buddy. You're losing your memory because you can't stand the fact that we're in love, so please don't haunt me either. Ryan Thompson was so shocked by the news that he lost his expression. He mumbled in a low voice, "That's impossible, I checked, don't you dare try to lie to me." I ignored his meltdown and pulled Zachary Davis up the stairs. Once inside the elevator, I let go of Zachary Davis's hand. Get someone to take Ryan Thompson back. I don't think he'll be coming back for me, so you're relieved, right? I waited for a long time, but couldn't wait for a reply. I was surprised to turn around and see Zachary Davis, lost in thought, rubbing the corner of his mouth wondering what he was thinking. I reached out and waved my hand in front of his face, "Come back to your senses." Zachary Davis shouldn't mind a little bit of a meet cute like that when he's passed through a million flowers, right? Or do you mind if I ruin your bromance? Zachary Davis shook his head evenly. No, don't mind. There was a ding and the elevator arrived. I exited the elevator and headed back to my room. Come in first, you can leave when Ryan Thompson leaves. Zachary Davis responded dully, then sat stiffly on the couch. His hands were on his knees and his head was motionless, as if he were a good student sitting in a classroom for a lesson. I was shocked by his reaction. But then reacted that maybe he still thought of me as his sister-in-law. Anyone who has been kissed by an elder can't pretend that nothing happened, right? But this is good, 2 troubles are solved at once. After that, the sky is high and the road is far, never see each other again. After about half an hour or so, Fiona Green came upstairs and told me that Ryan Thompson had checked out. I looked over to Zachary Davis, "You can go too." Zachary Davis obediently got up and walked to the door. I was about to close the door when Zachary Davis subconsciously reached out against it. I come back tomorrow? I raised an eyebrow. Zachary Davis explained, "In Caseland, Ryan Thompson comes back tomorrow, I'll be here in time to cooperate." I thought about it and agreed. Fiona Green looked at his back and asked me, "Sister, do you like him?" I was stunned for a moment. Why do you ask? He looks like he likes you. Zachary Davis likes me? That's ridiculous. He couldn't possibly like me, even if he did. Otherwise, what was he doing trying so hard to find me for Ryan Thompson? I stroked Fiona Green's head. Kids don't think so much. What's more, I looked up into the dark night sky. It doesn't have to be love. I can get by just fine on my own. Surprisingly, Ryan Thompson didn't show up again. Instead, Zachary Davis used it as an excuse to come 3 days in a row. On the fourth day, I asked him not to come back. Zachary Davis's mind went blank for a split second and he subconsciously asked, "Am I doing something wrong?" I shook my head, "But you don't have to come back anymore." Zachary Davis pursed his lips, didn't say a word, and didn't move. The atmosphere was glued for a moment before I heard him respond in a muffled voice. I drop my eyes and pretend not to notice what's going on in his mind. "Seafood?" Zachary Davis suddenly changed the subject. "I've been here so long I haven't even tried the local specialties." I looked back to find him regaining his previous cynical expression. "I've done you such a great favor this time, I'll have to rip you off before I leave." In an instant, all the discomfort was gone. I smiled, "Sure." Zachary Davis knew the boundaries and although we were traveling together, we kept our distance well. He recommended some places to visit in the south of the country. I smiled and agreed, saying I'd check them out sometime. At the dinner table, he peeled shrimp for me and told me with a smile. The basic manners of a gentleman, for a beautiful lady to enjoy. It seemed like a normal thing to do according to Zachary Davis's love history. So I accepted it openly and did not refuse. The meal went on for a long time, and when it was over and I was going to check out, I realized that Zachary Davis had already paid the bill. Zachary Davis smirked and said, "Checking out is also a sign of being a gentleman." I pinched my brow and deliberately didn't think much of it. It should just be a habit he's had for years of picking up girls. I won't see him again anyway. As I was leaving the restaurant, my cell phone rang. The moment I picked it up, I froze. It was a familiar and unfamiliar number. From my birthplace. Only at the end of the ringing did I stiffen and pick up the phone. "Luna, your mom is dying, come back and see her one last time." It took a long time before I understood his words. I opened my mouth, "I know. Over the years, I've had anger in my heart, and I've only sent money home, but I've never gone back. I've been up and down on the outside, just wanting to fight to show my mom. I don't know if I should go back at this moment, and I don't know if I should believe her words." Zachary Davis worriedly held me up, "Go back to the BB first?" I nodded. Originally, I was hesitant to go back, but when I arrived at the BB and saw Fiona Green, who was sitting docilely and watching the store, I finally decided to go back. In the end, I decided to go back. Whether it's true or not, I should go back and say goodbye to myself. When I left, Fiona Green hugged me sadly. I squatted down and hugged her. "Fisherman, you have to remember to live for yourself in this life." She nodded. Obviously we were nothing alike, but it was as if I was telling myself through her. "Luna Smith, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. Go back and settle your past grudges." Zachary Davis and I took turns driving all day to get to the hospital in town. Just inside the hospital, I met Ryan Thompson. I didn't ask why he was here and went into the hospital room. I almost didn't recognize her after all these years. My mom was so beautiful that she had a line of guys from one end of town to the other. But in the end, she chose my dad, who was mediocre. Because she didn't dare, she was afraid of being abandoned in her old age. But later, all the men who pursued her became big bosses. My father was the only one who not only failed to earn money, but also owed a lot of debts. The days became more and more miserable. My mom regretted her choice many times. She picked out a lot of sons of big bosses for me, and she told me that the bowl of youth should be eaten before it's too late. I ran away from the family and never saw her again. This time I saw her again, she was lying on the hospital bed, her face was so pale, her eyes were powerless, and her empty pupils were gray. I gently approached. She was still awakened by me. More than I was rusty, she recognized me at once. She waved at me, "You came back with your son-in-law?" I didn't answer. I obviously hadn't been back, yet she knew Ryan Thompson existed. She wasn't annoyed and said to herself, "Mom doesn't want you to follow in my footsteps, she wants you to marry well. You and your son-in-law are doing well, so don't fight. It's normal for a man to cheat on his wife. But what's outside is outside, and it can't get past you, so don't make a scene, and don't bother with your son-in-law." I tugged at the corners of my mouth, not knowing what to show. She didn't care if I listened or not, she just went back and forth to herself again. A mouthful of cheating, a mouthful of forgiveness. Finally Ryan Thompson came in with a scowl on his face and interrupted her. "I didn't ask you to say that." I laughed to myself as I watched the two men's little gesture. "Looks like you've got a little problem hiring a lobbyist." Luna, I don't know. I interrupted him, you don't need to explain, I don't care, and please stay out of my face. I turn my head and walk away. Just as I exit the hospital room, I'm swept back by Ryan Thompson with a sharp clasp on his shoulder. His eyes raged with anger and resentment. What's so great about Zachary Davis? He's not as good as me, he can't give you happiness. As if I couldn't feel the pain, I looked up at him. Are you finished? Do you have to be a man to be happy? And by the way, you're nothing like Zachary Davis, nothing. But there's no time to finish, a searing body heat crushes my lips and swallows the rest of my words. I struggled and bit Ryan Thompson hard. The smell of blood filled the air. Ryan Thompson didn't react, still holding me in a death grip. I raised my leg and prepared to kick him. Just then, Ryan Thompson was violently ripped away. Zachary Davis swung his fist up hard. She doesn't want to, who are you to make her? Ryan Thompson, stunned for a split second, jerked up and yanked Zachary Davis by the collar. What the hell are you doing? Don't think I don't know what you've done. What did I do? You made that call on purpose. Ryan Thompson yelled, and both men paused at the same time. They looked at me in unison. I looked back at them both with cold eyes. What call? After a moment of silence, Ryan Thompson was the first to open his mouth. The call to have you pick me up the other day was from Zachary Davis. He knew you were in the neighborhood, 5 minutes away, and made it a point to let you hear it. I swept a glance at Zachary Davis, who avoided my gaze. Then I do have him to thank for it. Ryan Thompson points incredulously at Zachary Davis. But he set all of this up, he was the one who set it up that day, he introduced me to all those cocky guys who humiliated you. He's been after you for a long time, he's been coveting you for a long time. Zachary Davis straightened his collar. I set the trap, I set it up, I seduced you. But I didn't force you, did I? You. Ryan Thompson choked. Luna, that's not true. Just let me explain. Again. I rubbed my brow. Enough, I don't want to hear anything. It doesn't matter what the truth is, it stopped mattering a long time ago. I twisted my head away and went to the attending doctor first to inquire about my mom's condition. The doctor said she really didn't have much time to live, and she wasn't very cooperative with the treatment. Said it was a waste of money. I paused. Let her be. If she doesn't want to be treated, then she won't be treated. Consider this the last time I saw her. Before I left, I hired a nurse to take care of her until the last moment. I sent Ryan Thompson a copy of the divorce papers. Left again without a word. I bought a blind box ticket and started a journey with no purpose. This time I didn't hide from anyone. I kept a Facebook travel diary and built a new number to start doing travel sharing. Everywhere I went, I sent a postcard to Fiona Green. Tell her it's a beautiful world out there and to be brave and step out of town. Be generous and live for yourself. This time I found myself. Then when I came back to the capital, it was Zachary Davis who picked me up. How did you know I was coming back? Zachary Davis shook his cell phone. I followed your Twitter feed. I remembered that last night I had tweeted about my latest trip. Except I didn't say what time I was coming back and Zachary Davis got me. I was a little overwhelmed for a moment by his affection for me. I pursed my lips and pretended not to notice. Zachary Davis didn't poke at it either, and asked, how many days are you staying this time? 3 days. Will you come back next time? Maybe. And pick you up, okay? I paused and looked at him in surprise. Zachary Davis didn't hide the concern in his eyes, or maybe something else. I clenched my fists and looked away from my head. If it comes back. Good. Zachary Davis' perspective. I was attending the Thompson family funeral when I bumped into a girl in a black dress and cold white leather. She stood at the end of the crowd, without a word. I felt the goosebumps on my body. What family is this? It looks like a female ghost claiming her soul. My friend yawned and glanced over. You mean her, Ryan Thompson's girlfriend, isn't she pretty? She's pretty, but she's a little too fake to be real. Not long afterward, it started to drizzle. When I was getting my umbrella from the backyard, I hesitated to give her one. Before I got there, I saw Ryan Thompson going by. Come on, I'm the one who's overly concerned since she has a boyfriend to pamper her. I was ready to go, but I couldn't stop my eyes from glancing that way. The cold beauty who just had a stern face was smiling warmly and generously. She held Ryan Thompson's hand, red lips one open, full of eyes are in front of the person. Until the cigarette burned into my fingers, I reacted to the fact that I had been staring for too long. I slapped myself, "Wake up." Later, Ryan Thompson brought her to meet us. After introductions, as if to cover my heart, I called out to brother Ryan Thompson. To Luna Smith, I called out to her sister-in-law. And only sister-in-law. After this, Ryan Thompson and I got closer and closer. I saw Luna Smith making soup by hand to take care of Ryan Thompson. Playfully teasing Ryan Thompson that he's going broke and can't even afford an aunt. What actually went through my mind was, if I were him, I couldn't afford to give it up. It wasn't long before I bumped into Luna Smith accompanying Ryan Thompson to talk about a project. Ryan Thompson didn't protect her that day, and she was forced to drink a lot. After seeing her run to the restroom and throw up 3 times, I finally asked for a warm towel and handed it to her. "Do you love the cause, or are you in it for Ryan Thompson?" Luna Smith thanked me but didn't reply. Maybe she didn't even know the answer herself. I forced myself not to notice her, but the more I pushed, the more I cared. I prayed nastily in my heart that they would break up, that their relationship would fall apart immediately. But year after year, they stayed together. Until, that night, I got a call from Ryan Thompson and rushed to the hospital. The doctor said he had suffered a short-term memory loss due to the concussion. But Ryan Thompson remembered everything but Luna Smith. Luna Smith, that day, was like the day I first saw her. Like a pretty, lifeless doll. I couldn't hide the seed I had planted in my heart. I thought, this is my chance. Zachary Davis' perspective too. Things went better than I thought they would, I should say so well that it angered me. Ryan Thompson, at my behest, started hanging out with the boys. Even when he regained his memory, he took my advice and continued to feign amnesia. As planned, I informed Luna Smith and let her know the truth. Then Luna Smith disappeared. I was a bit chagrined, but I had no proper reason to look for her. So I followed Ryan Thompson, looking for someone under Ryan's name. Ryan Thompson nearly turned New York upside down looking for someone. His sudden depth of feeling, it makes me laugh. Maybe he just couldn't handle being dropped by Luna Smith. After a long time, we still hadn't found Luna Smith. Ryan Thompson began to have trouble sleeping, going to sleep every night on sleeping pills. Everyone in the circle lamented. I didn't realize that Ryan Thompson was an obsessed man. I laughed coldly, late love is cheaper than grass. Ryan Thompson took too many sleeping pills, and he was hospitalized. I rushed to the hospital, but found that he didn't recognize me. The doctor said his obsession was so strong that he only remembered Luna Smith. Later, I found out where Luna Smith had gone. Without Ryan Thompson's knowledge, I went there. I told Luna Smith everything under Ryan Thompson's banner. The moment I found out Luna Smith wasn't going back was the happiest I've been in years. It didn't take long for Ryan Thompson to find out as well. Luna Smith messaged for me. The man paused, as if reacting, and clapped his mouth shut, about to apologize. All I remember from that night is that her lips were soft. But the kiss felt like it used up all my luck. She rejected my proximity. I reacted to the fact that even without Ryan Thompson, she wouldn't have chosen me. The seed that had sprung up was once again buried back in the earth, by me. I watched her move into favorite territory, and she no longer looked like a puppet on a string. She's full of life. That's great, Luna Smith, you're getting better and better. Zachary Davis Perspective 3. I met Ryan Thompson again at a drinking party. He hadn't touched a drop of alcohol, and when asked, he said it was because the missus couldn't smell it. There was an uninformed Mrs. Thompson on the sidelines who said, "You don't see many people with such a good relationship anymore." But soon someone else shared the gossip. What? He's just a self-righteous bigot. They divorced a long time ago, his so-called wives are all made up. When the new wives met Ryan Thompson again, there was sarcasm in their eyes. Unexpectedly, this time, it was the last time I saw him. Later that night, I heard that Ryan Thompson had lost his ring. He crossed the street looking for the ring and ended up in a car accident where he was killed instantly. All his inheritance was in Luna Smith's name. When Luna Smith found out, she took the money and started a new charitable foundation. She hoped that the money would help all the children who came out of the mountains. May they no longer have low self-esteem and find themselves. May they find themselves and start a journey of life in 1,000 different ways. End of story.